All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday, March 29th. We got a full MLB slate to dive into in today's video like we always do. I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment. That'll take you to all of my final plays. So I'm actually rolling with myself today. If that does interest you, absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. In terms of what we put together yesterday, a 3-3 day, all quarter unit plays. Not great, not terrible, nothing to celebrate, nothing to cry over. Our winners being Tyler O'Neill, under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. The A's, Mariners, Nerfy, which I think they didn't score a run. I mean, there was like 0-0 in the 4th inning. Jameson Taillon over 4.5 hits. That was a really good look. We did pay a lot of juice for that one. Probably should have just ended up, like I said in yesterday's video, I was kind of putting it back and forth. Probably should have just gone with Arizona team total over because we would have got slightly better odds there. And obviously they hit that as well. They're kind of in the same thought process, but nonetheless still a win. Our losers being the Red Sox team total, that looked bad. Mets Astros over, that looked bad. And then our hit parlay, Jarren Duran, he got a hit early, and then we're just waiting for Luis Arias to get a hit, and he did not. But unfortunately, like I said, we do lose a little bit off the top, but ultimately it's not the worst case scenario. And we do have a plethora, a full MLB slate here, plethora of games to dive into today to hopefully get this train back on the tracks after a really good opening day, a mediocre day two. Let's see how we fared today, guys. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get rocking here. We got New York taking on Milwaukee. Nestor Cortez on the mound. Not for the Yankees, but for the Brewers here, with Max Fried on the mound for the Yankees. I would say that this is, an advantage for Max Fried, and I guess we can say that just overall. But that being said, if we remember last year, Nestor Cortez was really good at home, really bad on the road. Do we count this as like a road? Like, this is technically a home. We pitched all last year at this stadium, so little worrisome there. I will say the thing that puts this over the top for me is that we saw a little bit, or at least what I would consider a little bit of, pop from the Yankees lineup. Was it a great performance from them? I don't think that I'd say that, but compared to the Brewers, there's definitely a lack thereof of offense on the Brewers side of things. So that 4-2 win night one, or game one, kind of is impacting my decision here just based on the offense, because we didn't even see, Goldschmidt or Bellinger or Judge like pop, you know what I mean? They scored runs otherwise. I mean, you had the leadoff home run from Austin Wells, obviously, right? So I do think that this lineup is in a better standing as of right now. One thing I will say is Jackson Trio, Yelich, and Contreras, 3 of the top batters there in this Milwaukee lineup, do hit lefties very well, and Max Fried is a lefty, so I guess that's worth considering, but he throws like 6 pitches. I expect the pitch mix to be okay. The off-speed stuff is what Milwaukee hit really well last year, so if he throws his fastball, sinker, and cutter, which makes up, those 3 make up over 60% of, or over 55% of his pitches, I think Max Fried should be okay. He also has decent numbers against his Milwaukee ball club. Actually, I should say this, the current guys on the roster. So if a guy played for the A's a year ago and Fried pitched against him and now he's on Milwaukee, it's going to count in these stats. 61 plate appearance against, decent sample size. 204 average against, 268 WOBA. Expected numbers here, expected batting average 262 against, and then expected WOBA 334. So not great in terms of the expected, but pretty good in terms of the actuals. So I do lean towards the Yankees. It's tough to get there at -160, but what I will say is their team total, which I looked into too, over 3.5 is -180, which is a huge price to pay. Team total over 3.5 for Milwaukee is -115, so there's a huge discrepancy there. Kind of just leads me into trusting what I think is a better pitcher today and the better offense. So give me the Yankees here, -160. I don't think I'd play it past that, though. That's already going to be tough to kind of justify. In terms of what we have from a total here, I would say Yankees team total over, but that's off the books, right? -180 is a little bit too high for me, so maybe I'll just say, hey, hopefully the Brewers can go out there and do their thing against a lefty. I'm going to lean towards the over, but I would probably say Yankees before I end up taking a total in this game. No player props as of right now that I'm all over here. I guess if I were just to spout a few that I've considered, Contreras under 1.5 base. I think that's a little bit too much. And then I also, where is it? We also looked at, and I lost it in the notes. All right, well, if I do add it, was it a Austin Wells under, I believe? If we do add it in, which I don't envision us doing, we'll put it in the final plays with a little blurb as to why we like it and that type of thing, like we do with any plays that we don't talk about in the video. But like I said, the only thing I'm probably considering here, and it took me a long time to get there, Mr. Ramblin' Ev over here, is probably Yankees money line. All right, we got the undefeated White Sox taking on the Angels in this one. Jonathan Cannon on the bump, going up against Jose Soriano. Soriano, I feel like, has just gone up and down so many times, but he closed out last year fairly well. I think we can give him some credit there. He doesn't have, crazy numbers in terms of sample size against this White Sox team, but what we do have is pretty good. You could say the same thing about Jonathan Cannon over here. I would say that the White Sox, probably end up losing this one. We liked them in night number one. No way I was putting my hard-earned bread on them on opening day, right? But we liked it because the price was a little bit too crazy, I think, on the Angel side of things. Price is even crazier now, but now that the White Sox won game, their first game, I just don't see them being a team that wins 2-0 and starts the season 2-0. So is that a good reason to, end up wagering on something? No, we probably stick away from this game, but I do think that two bad offenses. You have Soriano, who I would give the nod to over Jonathan Cannon. He didn't look all that great. Cannon also really struggled against righties. I guess he struggled against righties and lefties, but there's a lot of righties projected in this Angels lineup. So give me the Angels here. I think that they have a little bit better of a day, and I also don't mind the over. I don't really want to back either one of these pitchers at all. Now, the offenses stink out loud, but I don't think either one of these pitchers or the bullpens are all that tremendous. So why not consider, over 8, right? A 5-4 game could be in play here. I mean, we saw 9 runs in the first game that they played, but that was all White Sox all the way. So hopefully this thing kind of water finds its level, but it still is a poorly pitched game in a sense. And then no player props in this one. Honestly, didn't spend too much time on player props in this one. All right, next up, St. Louis taking on Minnesota here. Eric Fetty on the mound going up against Joe Ryan. We had the first 5 under in this game on opening day, and it looked really good right until the fifth inning, right? I think it was like there's 3 runs heading into it, and they scored 2 in the 5th, and that kind of blew it. I don't mind looking at the same thing today. Eric Fetty has some good numbers and a decent sample size against this Minnesota roster. So yeah, if we look at that, 52 plate appearances against, he has a K rate of 25%, average against of 200, expected batting average against of 194, a WOBA of 305, and an expected WOBA of 276. So some really good numbers in what I would consider a fair sample size at 52 plate appearances against, right? Joe Ryan has some scary, alarming numbers against the St. Louis roster, but only in 16 plate appearances. I would still say he is the better pitcher, and he's going to throw a ton of fastballs, a pitch that St. Louis really struggles against. If he goes to the slider, they don't hit that all that tremendously either. Their lineup does hit righties slightly better than they do lefties. Joe Ryan is a righty, so take that for what it's worth, but overall, I still do think that this is a game in which the starters can go out there and kind of do their thing, at least for 5 innings. And we can take a peek at an under there. The cutter is going to be the main pitch from Eric Fetty, and Minnesota just a year ago below, the bottom half of the league in terms of hitting that. The slider is a decent pitch for them, but the sinker is the other pitch that makes up a large portion of his pitch mix, and they don't hit that very well. So yes, you might look at these lineups and say, hey, they hit righties pretty well, both of them, but I don't think it's going to be all that easy, and it wasn't even all that easy in night number 1 against 2 righties as well, right? They did end up coming through and scoring some runs in the 5th, but we were slightly well on our way to a first 500, and it just so happened the 5th inning was the one that kind of blew up in our face. So I think it's going to be my first look here, kind of trusting the 2 pitchers. I don't mind a full game under. I want to see how these bullpens kind of pan out before we take a peek at that, because this is definitely a spot in which I'm trusting the starters overall, but I still don't think that there's enough for me to get to the over, if that makes sense. From a player prop perspective, I guess, and I hate to keep saying it, nothing as of right now. I did consider, both pitchers and their outs, because I do think at least one of these guys has a pretty strong chance of having a decent outing. But, early in the year, like I've said multiple times, with these bullpens being fresh, these 2 didn't play yesterday. There's such a strong chance that at the smallest of errors, they're like, hey, let's yank them. We got a fresh bullpen, that type of thing. So, yeah, I think both these guys could look good. So I looked at both their their outs, as well as their strikeouts. Ryan's strikeouts is low. It's at 4.5. You can get that minus 145 over on DK. On some places, that's minus 150. And, he's hit that in plenty of games, last season. He hit the over 87% of his games. But like I mentioned, early on in the year, anything goes awry, and we may start seeing some, some quick yanks. So pitchers are definitely something that I looked at, but I'm just being honest with you. It's tough to pull the trigger on those as of right now. Real quick, guys, just watching that back, I want to explain it a little bit more. There is still the opposite can be said, right? You could be like, well, they're fresh. These pitchers may be able to pitch more innings, earlier on in the year because they're fresh. So that's totally true. I don't want you sitting there listening to what I just said about, oh, they can yank them, they got a full bullpen. I'm saying if something goes wrong, they have a shorter leash. There's totally the possibility that, Fetty or Ryan is fresh and they go out there and crush. So take what I just said with a grain of salt. I didn't realize how much of a side I was on there real time, but watching it back, I was like, yeah, I think that I sound like I'm a little bit more, staking my claim on that take than I am. Like, I still do see there's potential ways that it works the inverse, you know what I mean? So anyways, let's get you back to the video here. All right, we have Baltimore taking on Toronto in this one. Decent series so far. I've watched a decent amount of it. And when I say decent, I mean it's just been like there's been runs in both games. It's been lopsided. 12-2 win for Baltimore night one. And then yesterday, 8-2 win for the Blue Jays. I do think that this could be a if you watch the futures video, I do like the Jays this season. They have what I would consider a decent pitching staff as long as guys look good and stay healthy. But Gausman did his job yesterday, and now they have Max Scherzer, has some decent numbers against this Baltimore roster, especially compared to who he's going up against, Dean Kramer, who has obviously in the division here a decent sample size, 117 plate appearances against this Toronto roster, right? We're looking at a 305 average against, an expected average against of 322, a WOBA of 379, an expected WOBA over 400, and a slugging of just shy of 600. So I don't think Kramer's going to have the best of games here in this one. It's just a matter of, can Toronto's offense now do it 2 games in a row? They looked really bad in the first game, right? Yesterday they look a little bit better. Which Toronto offense are we going to get? He throws a decent amount of fastballs, decent amount of cutters, not exactly the best pitches for Toronto to hit. The splitter will be the next one. He doesn't hit that as well. The sinker, the next one, they don't hit that as well. So for him to have to have these good numbers against Kramer is a little surprising to me. He also pitched better on the road than he did last year. So there are arguments to be made on the Baltimore side of things, because I do still think that they long-term will have the more consistent offense, but I think I'm going to be taking a peek at Toronto today. Max Scherzer on the bump. I'm thinking that he has a good year and fits right in. So yeah, this is probably a close one. I feel like we're not getting as much value as we may in the, say the middle of the year when these two teams have shown what they are, but minus 130 is a little meh right now. Like I said, the value isn't totally there, but I do still think that is going to be the side that I am on. I'm just trusting Max Scherzer overall. So I think that this is going to be a game now that's a little bit more, I guess, both, not lopsided, right? Like no team's going to go out for 12 or 8. I could see this one being a little bit closer to like a 5-4 game maximum, meaning I think there's more ways to get to an under 8.5 here in this spot overall. Scherzer, like I said, he has some decent numbers against the squad in 42 plate appearances against, so take that sample size for, what it's worth, and I feel like I say that a ton, but we are at the beginning of the year. I have to keep reiterating, like, grain of salt and all that, but I don't mind the idea of Max Scherzer having a decent game here. Like I said, I thought that with, I think that he's going to have a really good year. I did think that with Zach Gallen in night one, and he didn't look all that tremendous, so keep that in mind. But Scherzer over 4.5 strikeouts could be something that I consider. I also started to put around the idea of under 4.5 hits allowed, but the fact that we're getting under 4.5 hits for minus 160 odds did not leave a good taste in my mouth. All right, Washington taking on Philadelphia. I still think that we won this one night one. I still think the talent discrepancy is massively, big gap in this one. Philly ended up winning that game late, but I still like them on the money line here. Minus 154. Yes, it's a lot of juice to drink. Jesus Luzardo on the bump. I don't know exactly what we're going to get out of him, but I don't trust this Washington lineup against the left-handed pitcher. They don't hit the fastball all that well. They stink at hitting the slider, and the changeup being the third pitch that Luzardo pitches, they don't don't hit that all that well. So even though maybe he's had some struggles in the past just overall, he should match up well against this squad. And then looking at the matchup, yeah, he does. 70 plate appearances against, average against of 266, but an expected batting average against of 209, an expected WOBA of 289. So not all that bad for Luzardo against this Nationals roster, right? The guys that are technically on the team. So I'll lean towards them. I'm not going to play it past, the odds that we're at right now. Like minus 154 is still justifiable in my brain because this is probably a minus 160, minus 165 type spot. So yeah, and 10 cents of value in this dumb brain, I could justify it, right? I also don't mind a Nationals team total under. Putting a lot of, faith and weight into a guy that we don't know exactly how it's going to go, but everything that I'm seeing does not look like this is a Nationals great spot. So maybe I'd consider both of those spots. And then no major player props as of right now in this one. All right, guys, I know we are talking baseball right now, but Underdog has a free Jason Tatum 0.5 point square over on their site and app right now. If you guys do want to get in on the action, check out the link down in the description as well as the pinned comment. Throw this into your entry today. It's going to boost that payout, baby. Jason Tatum, 0.5 points. If you don't know what Underdog is, you're under a rock. It's time to get out of that rock. Use your superhuman strength. Get out of there and check it out. Really, really fun, especially if you do like player props and things like that, guys. All you have to do is pick higher or lower based on their player set projections. In this case, Jason Tatum, 0.5 points. We taking the higher or lower? Yeah, you're right. We're taking the higher there. And then you throw those into an entry. The more you win, the more you get paid out. And by signing up today, using that link in the description as well as the pinned comment, you can get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus. So go ahead and check out Underdog, guys. Really, really fun and really simple to use. They also have a built-in ladder type game mode, which is really cool because you could do the ladder right there on Underdog. It's called Streaks. So check it out, guys. That link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. Let's jump back into these games. All right, I didn't spend too much time on this one last night or this morning, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. We got Tampa Bay taking on Colorado in terms of pitching. We have Santanelzela, definitely not saying that correctly, going up against Zach Littell, which even over the years I've said his name, Littell. I've said it multiple ways. So, yeah, I don't really think that this is a great Tampa Bay offense. Overall, and I don't think that anyone would sit here and say that, but you look at Colorado and it's like, well, yeah, they're not all that great either, right? This game was 3-2 yesterday. We had to sweat out a Tampa Bay win if you were on Tampa Bay, but it was minus 200 odds as it is today, right? So I would still say maybe I could, be convinced of, which is kind of crazy, an under in this spot because both offenses are bad, but I don't know how much I trust, the pitching here either. So potentially going to lean towards a Colorado team total under as a pivot, right? Instead of saying, hey, we'll go and take the full game because Littell I do trust a lot more than I would, looking at Santanelzela or whatever the hell his name is. Littell has some decent numbers against this squad. The pitch mix looks okay. So that's kind of how I would play it. But again, not going to spend too much time on it. Not my favorite game on the board, especially when we have a jam-packed slate. All right, KC taking on Cleveland. This is a tough one, and let me explain why. I do think that there is some value over on Cleveland for the plus number next to them. But I also think Seth Lugo is in a pretty good position here. He's starting for Kansas City. Gavin Williams on the other side of things. This is a Cleveland team that does not hit all that tremendously against righties. Seth Lugo being a righty. And he has a crazy diverse pitch mix. And, whereas Gavin Williams on the other side, who has had his ups and downs, throws just a ton of fastballs, right? So if we look at these two guys, I think the one that's going to be able to pivot and morph and adapt would be Lugo. But again, Gavin Williams throws a ton of fastballs. It's not like the Royals hit the fastball that well. So there's definitely a side in case to be made for the Guardians here for plus money. But I think, at least in my opinion, I'd want a little bit more plus money to roll with them, and we did like them in the first game, right? Like that was one of our plays, and how'd that one work out, right? They ended up coming through late in the game overall. So yeah, a decent spot there. Cole Reagans didn't even look all that bad, but overall it was a decent look. So if you like Cleveland, I'm not trying to talk you off it, but I'm going to just say, hey, Lugo versus Gavin here. I'm going to say Lugo is going to be the guy today. I also do like Kansas City's lineup here in this spot with Bobby Witt Jr. and then who was it? I think Massey also are two of the top 5 batters here in good positions against what we should see from Williams from a pitch mix perspective. So yeah, I just expect them to score more runs, so I'm going to lean towards them on the money line. In terms of what we have from a total projection here, It's at 8.5. That first game, 7-4. These offenses are very good, but I don't know if like I said, I don't know if Cleveland has, 4 or 5 runs in them today. So I'm going to say Royals team total over. I think that's the side I'd much rather look at against Gavin Williams. So maybe that's the way that we end up playing the total. And then, like I said, Bobby Witt Jr. Is a player prop that I've considered here. Something like his over hits, runs, or RBIs, depending on the price you can go out there and get it at. That's I just think it's a good matchup for him overall. But I think his hits, runs, and RBIs. I believe it's at 2.5, which obviously he didn't hit last time, but he had 1 hit and 1 run last time. Should be a decent spot here for him today. Again, it's the pitch mix that I do really like: the fastball, the curve, and the cutter for him. Cincinnati, San Francisco. All right, we got Verlander projected to start here for San Fran. Obviously, he didn't have the best of numbers last year. And then we have Nick Lodolo, who really struggled at home last year overall. And he throws a lot of fastballs, a lot of curves. Both of those pitches, San Fran's kind of mediocre at hitting. Cincinnati hits the fastball very well. We know Verlander over the years has thrown a lot of fastballs. So, yeah, I think I like Cincinnati in this spot. They definitely... even though the result in game, their first game against San Fran was a 6-4 loss, they definitely looked like they could have won that at times. I believe that they were winning like 3-0 heading into the 4th or 5th inning. Like, I do think that this could be a decent spot for them overall. And I don't know how much we can really put a lot of faith into Verlander, right? Like, his career numbers look good against Cincinnati, but his career numbers, I don't know if are indicative of where he's at now. Nick Lodolo has some decent numbers against the San Fran roster, but still, I don't want to necessarily say Nick Lodolo is going to go out there and shove. So maybe we look at Cincinnati, but also an over in this spot, right? Like, I could see this being, much like we saw that first game, 6-4, where they kind of scored it all at the beginning, but then a little bit later on. I could see this being a game in which they just kind of score a few runs all game long, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's like, oh, it's at 9. So yeah, I like Cincinnati as well as the over in this spot. Miami taking on Pittsburgh. It's weird. I feel like I've tried to like this series. Really just haven't been able to get there. We have Bailey Falter on the mound, who I did not like a year ago, going up against Valente Belozo, who we literally called Valente Bozo. So that tells you what I think about him, right? I will say this is probably... this is the time to maybe take the Pirates if you think Miami stinks. I don't know what we're seeing out of this Pirates offense totally in terms of what we can project consistently throughout the year, but I do think that they're the better team. Both games were kind of grinded out type games. 5-4 Miami win in the first game, and then second game 4-3 Pirates win, but I think you're at least getting decent odds behind the Pirates today. So yeah, I think they're the better team. I think that they probably have a slight pitching advantage today, but lineup advantage as well. Like, the top of their lineup, I do think is a lot better than what we see from Miami. So for that reason, I like Pittsburgh. This isn't my favorite series, but honestly, Pittsburgh moneyline does have a chance of being a final play today, if I'm being completely honest, which we like to do around here, right? Miami team total under is also something that I consider, but then you're putting a lot of weight into the bullpen. You're putting a lot of weight into Bailey Falter. Not sure if I want to go out there and do that. So I think it's just a Pittsburgh money line or nothing really in this one. But in terms of the total, yeah, I would probably say, if I had to gun to my head, I would say Miami team total under. But I again, that's based on Miami's offense, not so much on Falter, which is tough to say, right? Texas taking on Boston. You know how I like Jonah Heim yesterday? Well, yeah, I almost took him to get a hit, right? And we didn't. We talked about it in the video. And wouldn't you know, the guy goes out there and does his job. What do you have, 2 home runs? So, yeah, I don't mind him again today. We'll start with a player prop. I like Jonah Heim. Overall, I think that, Walker Buehler against lefties is a tough spot, and Heim's going to hit from the left side today. But Walker Buehler right now going up against Molly, I would say, advantage Buehler, but maybe that's the biased Red Sox fan in me, because obviously Buehler's had an up and down, and he really didn't look all that tremendous just a year ago, right? But neither did Molly, especially at home, and he's a righty, and we said it last year, and I liked it Game 1, I liked it Game 2. Like, this Red Sox offense is no joke, especially against the right-handed pitcher. And Molly's, in fact, we'll show you the dashboard. I'll explain how to get access to our Guy Boston Sports dashboard in just a second, help you out with your research. But look at this, throwing a ton of fastballs, right? Like a ton. 53% of his pitches being a fastball a year ago. Red Sox, I almost said Celtics. Red Sox a year ago, fourth best in terms of batting, fastballs in terms of runs above average, and obviously very good against righties overall, even from their lineup perspective. So yeah, I think this is probably a Red Sox spot. They should have the pitching advantage, but should, as in just based on the name. We look at recent numbers, neither one of these guys looks all that great, which is why that total, I'm assuming, is up there at 9, right? In Walker Buehler, I don't have it up in front of me, but I don't believe he has the best numbers against this Texas roster. But overall, I still kind of want to trust him. Again, maybe I'm being a biased Red Sox fan, but I like the offense of the Red Sox. So I know it blew up in our face yesterday when we took their team total over, but if we can get a decent price behind Red Sox team total over 3.5, which I want to say it's minus 160 over on ESPN right now, and even more juiced everywhere else, I think that could be something that we do consider. I mean, yesterday was the first game since August last year that they played against this Texas team. They had hit it in 7 straight games before they had scored at least 4 runs. So yeah, I think that they should be able to go out there and put up 4 runs, especially in a matchup that I would consider a pretty good matchup against this pitcher. So that's kind of both, I guess, the hybrid version of, yes, Red Sox money line I like, but I just kind of like their team total over mainly because I don't know exactly what to expect out of Buehler, right? So if he pitches well, then maybe we can kind of back him next time, but right now I might just want to isolate it to the offense. Houston taking on New York. We got Spencer Arrieta Spaghetti on the mound for Houston, going up against Griffin Canning for this Mets team. We've seen some weird games, right? From 2 teams that we would sit here and say, like I did say both times, good offenses. We've seen a 3-1 game in favor of both teams so far this season. I think that I'm going to lean towards another over, which I'll sound the psycho alert alarm because we've liked the over both times in this series and then ends up 3-1. But, I mean, you're getting Spencer Arrieta, who throws a lot of fastballs. He's going to throw the curve. The cutter as well, but 2 of those pitches, the curve and the fastball, Houston's very good at hitting. On the flip side, the Mets are good at hitting. You have Griffin Canning, who's going to throw a ton of fastballs, a ton of sliders. Houston's very good at hitting those. I think these offenses at some point the dam's going to go and they're going to bust. Pause. So yeah, I'm going to lean towards the over 8.5 as my first spot in this one. In terms of where I'd go from a side perspective, I would say that this is like a Houston, if I were to just, blindly say it, looking at the pitching and lineups, I would have probably said this is a Houston like minus 130 spot. So when we see it at minus 125, minus 122, I think is the best value right now. Yeah, there's a few cents at least in terms of what I'd price it at, a value on Houston. But the over, again, is my favorite look in this one, which is just annoying because we've liked the over multiple times now, and has it worked out? No, right? It's actually been far from it. Like, we barely got halfway yesterday, so that's a little bit tough. One player prop that we do have that I don't mind, and it's just kind of due to matchup here. It's going to be Walker under 1.5 total bases here. Do I really want to trust Griffin Canning? No, but his batting average drops against right-handed batters. That's where Walker is, right? And Walker's batting average against right-handed pitchers drops, as does his batting average of balls in play. So I kind of like the spot here. He hits the fastball okay, but he strikes out more against it. Hits the changeup okay, hits the slider terribly. So hopefully we get to that slider as the put-out pitch against him. And again, 1.5 total bases isn't all that easy to hit in the first place. I mean, he hit the under here in 60% of his games last year. Obviously a little bit different of a situation, but he only has 1 base so far through 2 games this season. So I think that could be a decent spot to take a peek at as well. All right, SD taking on Atlanta. We got Spencer Schwellenbach on the mound for Atlanta. On the mound for San Diego is Randy Vasquez, who, yeah, I feel like everyone's in the same boat with him. Like, your guess is as good as mine as how he's going to go out there and perform. Now, in terms of what we do see from a pitch mix perspective, though, I guess you could say there is an angle to be made for this San Diego team because Schwellenbach's going to throw a fastball, he's going to throw a cutter, he's going to throw a slider. San Diego pretty good at hitting all of those pitches. I think the cutter being the only one that they kind of struggle against. But overall, against right-handed pitchers, Tatis, Arias, Machado, Merrill, Cronenworth, Bogarts, like you go 6 or 7 guys deep in this lineup, and they all love to hit righties. And I will say that's good, but also on the flip side, we can be honest and say, well, Schwellenbach's very good against righties, so that could isolate Machado, Tatis, Bogarts, right? And then all of a sudden, your Arias, Merrill, and Cronenworth's still good, but that's against the left hand now that he does struggle against. So I think because there's a plus number next to San Diego, I'll lean towards them. If this were to be flipped and Atlanta was at home and you had plus money with Atlanta as the home team, that may be something that I consider, right? But right now, just because of that plus number, I think that is the side that actually is holding the value. One thing that kind of worries me, and I'll be completely honest here, is that we're looking at, 3 straight games that San Diego could, they play tomorrow too, so it's not like it's a full sweep, but 3 straight games that they open up and beat this Atlanta team. They were underdogs in the first game, right? I think they were favorites yesterday. Cease didn't even pitch all that tremendously, but they still took it home. Are they really going to win 3 straight to start the year against a very good ball club? That's a little concerning, but ultimately I'm going to stick to that as of right now. But you could also consider them team total over if you don't like Randy Vasquez. That's a beautiful thing about baseball. You can probably get a similar, you're going to end up paying more juice, but a similar sort of thought process can get down. And if you like their offense today, which that's kind of what I like, and don't trust Randy Vasquez, then maybe you just look at the team total over. But I do think that the value actually today, and maybe this is, again, I've said it multiple times in my dumb brain and Ev math, but I like the fact that we're getting plus money behind San Diego. That's where the value is, because I think this is more of a 50-50 type spot. We're getting plus 120. So hopefully that makes sense, but I do like their team total over as well. All right, Arizona comes through yesterday. They got to Jameson Taillon. They win 8-1. In this matchup, they have Brandon Pfaadt going up against Shota Imanaga. And I like Arizona, right? Like I've been an Arizona guy for a couple of years now on this show, and I love backing their team total and blah, blah, blah. But this is Shota Imanaga, and he's very, very good. He's a little bit worse on the road than he is at home, so I think that's worth noting, but very good against lefties. And obviously you do have a couple, at the top of the lineup, Carroll and Naylor being lefties today. Marte is going to be hitting from the right side. So yeah, I think that this is a decent Sterling Marte, not even the right Marte. I think it's a decent Shota Imanaga spot overall. But if Arizona does get to him, they will get to him. Like it's either going to be his fastballs being placed amazingly and he's getting by these guys, or they will eat his fastball up, which is something that this Arizona team does plenty. So yeah, I'm actually going to, fade one of the teams that I really do like, but I'm going to back Shota Imanaga because you're getting plus money right behind him, and I think that he should have a decent performance here. I also don't mind, it's kind of crazy, but I don't mind an under in this spot. I think both pitchers could go out there and deal fairly well. Brandon Pfaadt has some really good numbers against this Chicago team. Now, it's a small sample size, but still pretty good numbers. So, yeah, I'm kind of having to blindfold myself and be like, do not pay attention to the Arizona offensive numbers. Don't do it. And both games, was it 8-1 yesterday, 6-10 the day before? Like, I'm hoping that these two pitchers can kind of reel things in, especially on the Shota side of things. So give me the Cubs as well as the under. I'll sound the psycho alert alarm for that, because I know last year taking unders in Arizona games was just like downright silly at times, right? But you know what? Can't be afraid of it. In terms of what we have from a player prop, 2 that I like on the Cubs side of things, they are unders. We have Ian Happ. I like his under 1.5 bases. Like I mentioned, I think, this should be a decent spot for Brandon Pfaadt. The one concern is that, 2 of the top 3 pitches that Brandon Pfaadt's going to throw, Ian Happ does hit fairly well, but again, 2.5 bases. Obviously has a really good first game there, but I don't think that this is the best spot for him. He's 0 for 11 against Brandon Pfaadt in his last 11 against him. So I like that spot. And then I also would consider Michael Busch under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Against right-handed pitchers, he drops, and Brandon Pfaadt's good against left-handed pitchers. He's also another guy, though, I worry a little bit about hitting the fastball well and the sinker well, because those are 2 of the top 3 pitches, but hopefully Pfaadt is on, and we don't have to worry about him hanging or just leaving any junk right over the plate. Dodgers taking on the Tigers. What did we say yesterday, right? We were like, hey, maybe this is a Tigers spot, and it kind of looked like it was for a little bit of the game, and then Freddie Freeman says, hey, let's tie this bad boy up, and the Dodgers win 8-5. Like, they're a throw into a parlay team at this point, right? They're already minus 220 in a spot like this, which I shouldn't say like a spot like this, because this does kind of make sense, right? Reese Olson against Sasaki is I would still, even though we don't have much data on Sasaki, I would still say that's the better spot for him overall. I would probably say Tigers team total under today. They scored, what was it, 4 runs in the first game, 5 runs in the next, and I've been saying all along, I don't know what I really think of this offense. I don't think they're all that great, so I think it's about time that they go out there and probably score, less than 4 runs. And right now, getting their under 3.5 is decent at -128. So yeah, Tigers team total under is what I first looked at in this one. Dodgers, it's hard to take against them. So yeah, sure, I'll lean towards them on the money line. Don't love the run line, but might as well throw them in a parlay or something like that if you do like them. I think they could be a decent piece here. In terms of the total, like I said, Tigers team total under is probably what I'm looking at, but I could get convinced of a Dodgers team total over. 2 ships passing in the night in this one. So I don't have a play really on the game total, but Tigers under, Dodgers over is probably what I would consider. All right, Bryce Miller taking on Osvaldo Bido. Mariners taking on this Athletics team. We hit the Nerfy in this one yesterday, and I think I might jump right back to it. My concern is the Nerfy is just getting killed in terms of odds in this one. So let's get the updated line there so I could tell you. But let's see. Yeah, the under, actually, wow, that moved from even when I looked at it last night into this early morning. -130 for the Nerfy. Probably my favorite look in this one. I also don't mind a first 5 under, but you're getting a 7 total. You're not going to get a very good line. Neither one of these offenses, and I've been saying this, right? We knew this before the season, and it wasn't a unique take. Everyone should have known this. Neither offense is all that tremendous. But yesterday was weird. They barely scored, and then the Athletics had the big inning, right? Which was, what, the 8th inning, I want to say? And they ended up winning the game 7-0. That does not shock me, right? This is a team that Seattle allowed 0 runs to the first 4. They allowed a couple more throughout the game. And then all of a sudden, it's like our offense just is not competing. So I like the first 5 under, even though we're getting a really, really low number overall, like under 3.5 right now. Actually, you can get under 4.5 for -140. I was thinking that'd be more in the -160 range, and I didn't think the value was there. I guess I don't mind both the Nerfy and the under 4.5 for the first 5. It's you're getting 5 runs of leeway right there, of runway, and the total for the whole game is only 7. Could get convinced of that. In terms of a side, yeah, I would say Bryce Miller has the advantage over Osvaldo here. He was really good at home last year. So, yeah, I think we'll probably end up sticking to that, I would say. But in terms of what we would actually roll with, I think it's Nerfy and first 5 under. But I think Seattle bounces back and wins this one. Guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you guys did enjoy, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. MLB is a grind, but I am having a blast doing these videos. Hopefully, guys, you are enjoying watching them. Catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.